Okay, let's see if we can keep going. All right, so we have that. Okay. Hey, some folks were walking by in the house when I was saying, finishing up about marriage, and I was getting a little nervous. But in our own marriage, I'm unable to, my clerical skills are such that I'm unable to be the one that pays the bills, right? So I'm unable to fulfill that traditional masculine part of the deal in the marriage. So Miss McKenzie pays the bills. I tend to be the one that's a little more sentimental, and we know that. From time to time I'll get choked up in class. So I mean, I stomp around and try to be kind of a tough guy. Not a tough guy, but you know what I mean. Manly. It's important to me to be manly. But in the marriage, there's certain areas where she's taken on roles that traditionally the man took on, and I've been maybe a little more the sentimental of the two. So all have kind of female and male parts of us, of our personality, right? But the article I'm gonna send you talks about the notions of complementary. Are the genders complementary of each other, or are they exactly the same other than body parts? And so that's kind of the an issue. And also like roles. Times in the marriage when we first got married and the kids were little. Well, she stayed home with them. 1950s version of things. I brought home the food. I brought home the paycheck, and she stayed home with the kids, and she was better able to stay home with the kids. She was better. She can keep all the stuff straight and so forth. So marriage is always an expense and an experiment in gender relations, and each couple's got to kind of find out how they fit together. All right, but enough of that. It seemed like I didn't quite make that point quite well enough. All right, so we're looking at we've got the immigration stuff coming up. So this I've got immigration on one heading, right? I've kind of talked about immigration a lot. Put it in there here and there, worked it in there here and there. So I'm not going to say a lot about it. Most of it's already been said. But there's two ways of becoming a citizen. So we're starting in like the law says there's two ways of becoming a citizen. So the law of the blood is one of those. It's, I think, Latin just sanguinis or something like that. But if both of your parents, no matter where you're born, if both of your parents are citizens, then you're a citizen. You're born a citizen. All right, now what if only one of your parents is a citizen? Okay, well then it gets real complicated. Look at all that stuff. If one's a citizen, they've got to live here 5 years after the age of 14, basically as an adult. And then you become a citizen if you live here 5 years between the ages of 14 and 28. All right, basically as, an almost adult. All right, so it's kind of complicated if there's just one who's a citizen. All right, and then the law of the soil. So we know about that one. Any boy, that's called jus soli. All right, anyone born in the U.S. is automatically a citizen. Hey, both of our presidential candidates of 2008 had certain controversies. You had the birthers who swore up and down Obama was born in Africa somewhere, born in Kenya. His dad was Kenyan. Obama was born in Hawaii. And McCain was not born in the United States. He was born in Panama. Two American citizens who were in the military, and it was, I think, still American soil because on a military base. All right, so both of them qualified, were born citizens, but but both of them kind of had issues that got raised at one point or another. Okay, well, somebody who comes here with permission, legally, has a process of becoming a citizen. All right, so a legal resident, legal alien, got to meet these criteria. Got to live here 5 years. Got to be able to speak and read English. Got to pass a test. I teach a little class, a little citizenship class at the library. And folks who want to pass that citizenship test come, and it's been fun. We can't quite get as many people coming as we'd like to. Every time we get some momentum going, something happens. This most recently, but there's 100 questions you got to know the answer to, and they're going to ask 20 of them, and they're basically civics type questions. Y'all would do quite well on it. You got to take a loyalty oath. You got to be loyal to the United States, not to another country. And you got to kind of have references, character references, prove good character. So those are 5 things someone who is here has to be able to do. All right. Well, there's the soccer team, the Gordon Central 2010 soccer team. And so we get to our immigration component of this story. So you'll see me right there. Underneath that hat is some hair. There's Walt. There's Luke. And this is the head coach, Coach Timms. He was he is a principal in town, principal of Bellwood Elementary School now, but he was a soccer coach. All right, so, the story goes that I didn't really know very much about soccer. I still don't exactly know. I coached 3 years. I still don't know how many people go on the field at one time. I think it's 10, but it may be 11. I can't keep it straight. But he was, he was a young coach, and at that time, I already had the 4 kids. Of course, they were little. Walt was the youngest. And I used to give him a hard time about when he was going to have kids. And so one night he was he took his wife out for our birthday, and they ate in Atlanta, and they got back. He lives out in Sonoraville. They got back, about 1 o'clock in the morning from meeting in Atlanta for our birthday. And it's dark out there, and they had a wreck, and his wife got killed. And so, I wasn't sure, it's like Marcus or, this guy right next to me, or Herndon, the younger guy right next to me, and what do you do? And I didn't know what to do, and it happened maybe in May, happened in the spring right before school got out. But by the time the fall came around, I kind of figured that probably the best thing I could do for my buddy there was help him coach, because he was going to coach the boys and girls soccer team. And I mean, y'all know me and know that I'm not clerically talented enough, organized enough to be able to teach and coach at the same time. I just ain't got it in me. I cannot do that. And somehow or another we managed to do it. And the thing that allowed us to do it was the kids. They kind of carried us. He was broken and I was incompetent. But for 3 years we had a heck of a time with those guys. And some of them are supposed to be here, some of them are not. The guy that was Walt's favorite was named Ricky. He's like 4 feet tall. Walt was already taller than he was. And immigration picked him up, the 3rd year, I believe, I'd been coaching. I went down there where he was kept in a detention place, and that's just the worst look I've ever seen in a kid's eyes, just about. We found a lawyer, managed to get him out. He's here, he's working construction, he's got a little kid of his own now. But that's kind of where I got more stories, but that's part of where my convictions on this issue came along. As I said, hey, all these recordings were Guy showed me how to do it, was undocumented, and at Dalton, I had, when I was teaching in Dalton at Northwest Whitfield, really impacted a lot by those kids. All right, but we know the issue. There's no sense in just kind of carrying on about the issue too much. Number of undocumented immigrants in the United States is 11 million. And so I guess the question is, we can just boil it right down. It might be a question I ask you. Regardless of what side of the issue you're on, would you be willing to trade? What's the compromise here? Would you be willing to trade a wall for a path to citizenship? In other words, if you're a Democrat, you're pro-immigrant, would you give the president his funding to build a wall in order for the folks who are already here to be able to stay? And if you're a Republican and you've kind of seen yourself as a hardliner on this issue, would you be willing to allow the people that are here to stay in order to get the funding for the wall? And I think, based on conversations, what I've read, in their heart of hearts, the majority of both the House and the Senate would be willing to make that deal. All right, but given the nature of their political constituencies and their districts, where a Democrat is going to pay a heavy price for giving in on too much border security, and a Republican is going to pay a heavy price for any kind of rhetoric about allowing people to stay here. So it's just kind of the big sort and the gerrymandering and, kind of the nature of our politics today that kind of prevents deals from getting done, and it pays the president to stir the pot on it. President Trump has not been as extremist in his policies as I was afraid he was going to be when he got elected. But he has, he's spoken awfully divisively about it, and it's good for his poll numbers to do it. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Okay. Ooh, there you go. Let's see. Oh, I screwed up. Oh, my goodness. All right. So let's change these. Can we change them? I wonder if I can get rid of all this. Let's see. I can go right here. And get rid of a lot of it. And go that way. Alright. And we'll go, what are the two ways of being born a citizen? Alright, and I guess the last question is, why can't a compromise be made? Okay, alright, let's go down one. Nope. What about now? There we go. All right, so this is the last heading. Not as controversial, not as cold, hot button as the last two, but we're going to kind of go through some other groups here. So, the Asian American story. Asians, depending on where they're from, there's variation in their political leanings. They're moving left. Asians are moving left. When I was teaching this in maybe the 90s, I would say Asians are rather economically conservative because they're a lot of Asians are very successful in the United States, but they're kind of moving left in recent polls. And, almost track with Hispanics, about 60-40 Democrat. We know the history. The Chinese came west to work in the mines on the railroads. So our second anti-immigrant law in our nation's history, first being the Alien Sedition Act under John Adams. Remember, he was worried about French immigrants. Chinese Exclusion Act, 1882, and Chinese were not allowed to come back to the United States till World War II. All right, there's Gary Locke. In the early 2000s, he was the first Chinese-American governor. of a state. Okay, the Japanese story, we know that one. They had the internment camps, and the Korematsu case is a case in which perhaps the court just kind of caved into popular opinion. They were concerned. You can look at it as a trade-off. You can compare it to some of the calculations y'all talked about with Guantanamo. But, they kind of got caught up in it. We've looked back and decided, and Reagan signed reparations to the families of those who survived the camps. Okay. All right. And finally, so Native Americans. All right. So we know the stories. Here where we are, the Indian Removal Act, Worcester versus Georgia, was the court case where the Supreme Court said, hey, they're supposed to be allowed to stay. What was Worcester? He was an illegal missionary. He wasn't allowed to stay with the Cherokee, but because he was pro-Cherokee, he was against Indian removal, so he had his license taken away and he wouldn't leave, so they threw him in jail. And so he sued, and in that decision, the court ruled that the Cherokee should stay. And so they're the tribe that assimilated. It didn't pay off for them. In more recent years, I've read more and more writers who admire the more confrontational Indian tribes, the Plains Indian tribes, who really just didn't try to assimilate. They didn't think it was going to work out, so they just fought. So there's almost kind of an admiration for them, kind of like a begrudging admiration students sometimes have for Malcolm X. When they read Malcolm X, and he's just kind of uncompromising. Whereas Martin Luther King kind of sounds soft. In this story, the Cherokee seemed a little soft. It didn't work out for them. And the Sioux Indians and the Comanche Indians, they're just fighting back. I read a book this Christmas about the Comanche. The Comanche were rough people, and they certainly weren't nice to women that they captured at all. So I think we got to be careful about getting carried away with admiring people because they fought against the United States. The Comanche didn't treat folks that they were just as much a conqueror people as the U.S. was, and they treated people worse. That they conquered really. All right, but so it's kind of interesting things that are being written right now about Native Americans. Life on the reservation isn't good. There's not a lot of economic opportunity on reservations. Alcoholism is a huge problem. And I think we're aware that casinos on some of these reservations are seen as big employers and opportunities for Indians on these reservations, and not subject to the gambling laws that those particular states have sometimes. And there have been some Native American congressmen elected. All right. There we go. So, hey, add some Native American stuff to that. And that wasn't but about 10 or 12 minutes, I bet.